BS busters, also known as don't be fooled. So folks, I don't want anyone getting fooled here. We're going to do a little bit of BS busting. And this is a great way to know what's going to be for sale, what should be for sale. And sometimes what should be for sale just means it will be for sale once stubborn people start looking at the facts. And the stubborn people are often dealerships. Not necessarily bad dealerships, but I'll put them in the bucket of like the nicest of the bad dealerships. I'd say a bad dealership is a dealership that doesn't adjust their prices quickly enough. I was watching a video from Brandon at Car Questions Answered recently, and he very wisely switched up his car prices before the huge majority of the market because he's smart. He realizes that he is 100% better off taking a small loss now instead of, for the next 3-4 months being hard-headed like most dealerships, paying interest. And we'll talk about how much that interest costs using a fantastic example, but paying that interest and then finally going, we can't sell it. We're going to lose money. And then either lose the original money you would have at the beginning. So let's say you sell it for $2,000 less than what you paid or $3,000 less than what you paid, depending on the price of the vehicle. Maybe it's only $500 less than you paid. But when you're dealing, my dealership deals with a lot of $30,000 to $110,000 used vehicles. So if you have a $40,000 used vehicle and it sits on your lot for 6 months at 10% interest, 1 year at 10% interest, you take 40,000 times 0.1 and you get what it costs for a year. So $4,000 in interest. Maybe my math is wrong, and any of the super math people, I'm pretty average, but any of the super math people can correct me. I might be wrong on this, but 1 year would be $4,000 in interest. 6 months on a $40,000 vehicle, you're going to pay $2,000 of interest. So too many dealers are going to sit around and instead of giving customers what at first will appear like a good deal, because if you're in the first 10, 15, 20% of dealers to correct yourself to the current market, you look like the good guy, and you really are the good guy. Well, good guy, smart guy, good at business, good with numbers, but you're going to get the unit sold, meaning you're going to make a customer happy as long as you recondition your vehicles properly and fix them. So you're going to make a customer happy. You're going to have one more customer that you might sell their next 7 vehicles to. You're probably going to finance the vehicle and get a kickback from the bank. You're going to stop paying interest, and you might sell an extended warranty, rust proofing, where if you're fair, you're going to make a little bit of money off of, but a reasonable amount. Not to, you don't want to bleed people on these things, because then they might love the dealership until they walk into the finance office. And if they overpay in finance, even if they say yes, sometimes it takes 1 week, sometimes it takes 1 year, and sometimes it's when they go to trade in the vehicle and they're like, well, why is my amount owing so much? And then like, oh, and then the other dealer, or maybe the new salesman goes, oh, well, last time, they might say, well, you have an extended warranty. Looking at the numbers, you probably paid roughly $4,000 for, let's say it's $4,000 for 1 year of extended warranty. That's a very bad price. Then you might lose. Obviously, you should lose confidence and trust in the first dealership, and then, you're not going to sell an extra 7. So smart dealerships stay ahead of the game and lower prices. Now, that's true for both used and new, because most dealerships aren't paying new vehicles from the manufacturers cash. Now, these vehicles are declared sold, at least for Ford. I can guarantee and promise you that Ford only declares their vehicles sold when a customer's name is put to that serial number and they've received the contracts signed. That's when Ford declares these vehicles sold. So that's for Ford numbers. So don't be fooled. Ford isn't declaring their vehicles sold just when they send them to their dealership. So the Ford isn't just pushing all sorts of vehicles to the dealerships to say, hey, look, we've got an amazing sales. No, sales are when the customers take them. So Ford puts a lot of pressure on the dealerships to get those vehicles sold to a customer's name. So there's a lot of pressure from Ford to get that done, and it even affects their a dealership's allocation. So right now, we want Ford Mavericks, we want Rangers, we especially want Super Duties. How do we get those vehicles? We get more if we turn them over, meaning we sell them to a customer, then we earn. So it's called Turn and Earn. Ford has a program called really Turn and Earn, and it's so simple. They gave it a simple name, so even the worst dealerships with the worst employees can understand that, oh, well, if I turn more, I'll get more, which really is to incentivize. I'm not going to have you say the word. Can you say the word I'm trying to say here? Incentivize.
Incentivize.
Anyways, it gives them a reason. It encourages them to, maybe not sell over MSRP, sell at the correct price, but sell more, because if you sell more, you get more. So that's what's going on. So don't be fooled on those aspects. So don't be fooled. Where are the numbers at? So the numbers here at Ford, we've got them here. We've just got to find them. Where did I hide those numbers? I guess I'll have to rely on the screenshot I took. So Ford has actually finished Q2, so quarter 2 of 2023. Ford has finished as the most sold company. They're America's #1 brand. And that recalls me, speaking of #1 brand, that means I've got the slide actually right here. So let's head over to Ford Authority. You can also get this from other sources. It's on the Ford Media site as well. So Ford is actually finished #1 sold brand. So they can sell trucks. They are selling trucks. A good portion of those trucks are actually going to fleet sales. And being that they're going to fleet sales have increased because for 2 years, Ford more or less ignored fleet. And in ignoring fleet, that's because they did everything they could to get customers their orders, because the F-150 was really backed up with orders. Now there's a ton in the yards. So our senses really tell us. You go to pretty much any Ford yard, and your brain is going to be screaming at you saying, hey, this is pretty obvious. Ford's got a huge problem, because they went from having none available to a lot available. Incentivize. Thank you, M. Peugeot. Incentivize. I need to see it. I'm verbal. If I don't see it in my brain, in my mind, I often can't pronounce the word. I have to be able to see it and to spell it out. I'm dyslexic. So it helps me to see it and look closely at it. So, Ford can sell trucks. It appears like they can't sell trucks. They're not selling nearly as many Mavericks as they need. So, we got Brandon here on the back screen.
Sorry.
From Car Questions Answered. Yeah, Ford's supply and demand for Mavericks is unbelievably high, and they cannot sell nearly as many as they need to. And that's because they can't produce nearly as many as they need to. So the data behind those numbers, just to show you my sources here, we're over at Ford themselves, showing us what's going on. And it's not positive for the Maverick for June. June Maverick sales, 6,720. Now that's not something to really go, brag about. Oh, sorry, wrong chart. That's 2022. Because last month for May, they're at 11,500. And for this month, I'm going to have to, I can't believe I pulled up the 22 chart. I'm sorry, folks. That's why I thought June sales for the Maverick were at 6,700. So 2023 Ford Maverick June production numbers. Let's see where they're at. Sales versus production. So I got that horribly wrong, and I'm going to correct it right here. They've got the chart. Correct chart up here for the Ford Maverick. Now let's see. second quarter, so for the whole quarter, the Maverick sales were at 21,000, Maverick production, sales 21,021. That's a 7.8% change. Obviously, things are going better for sales for the Ford Maverick because they're producing more. But that's still, that's just for Q2. Year to date, for the Ford Maverick, they're at 42,499. Now in 2022 at this point, they're at 38,753. So from 1 year difference, the percentage change on build on the Maverick is only 9.7%. Let's hope that with 24 production increase, we get more than a 10% increase in builds, because that's not fantastic over 1 year. Now they have and still have microchip issues. Things are getting better, but we actually had a fantastic comment from so don't be fooled when people say that there's absolutely no microchip shortage problem remaining. Don't be fooled. This is really cool. Thank you so much to F9FCJ429 for writing in, giving us some first-hand news. He's an engineer at a major semiconductor house serving all phases of industry, including the automotive industry. He says, you cannot imagine the hassles and headaches we have gone through over the last 3 years trying to keep the wheels from falling off the train. I am in the same boat as so many others out there, waiting patiently for Ford to put my new Bronco together. Hey, at least Tim Bartz, says two-door demand and capacity are even now. So demand and supply are even for the two-door Bronco. He goes on to say, seriously though, everybody on my team has fought nonstop trying to stay a step ahead of the dreaded line down alerts. You don't put an industry through what ours has just been through and fix it overnight. I cut any manufacturer trying to make anything a lot of slack right now, because I know what happens when the supply lines break in multiple places at once. I'll tell you this though, it's a good time to invest money in warehouses. So he understands that his Maverick is taking a long time because he's in the microchip production industry. And he's said that things that were horrible, and from my understanding, things are better, but not perfect. There are still issues with microchip production, getting the right microchips for the parts that you need. So inventory is going to continue getting better. Production is going to continue to get better with time. If ever production surpasses actual demand, as it has with the F-150, what happens? Rebates come out. So how can you spot a rebate? Well, you can go online and look at what's selling. So that's what we did. And actually, I'll take you to the exact site here. We've got it right here. We went to, let's see, this is goodcarbadcar.net, US sales figures. So this is really good because production is going to continue to go up. Production has significantly gone up from 2022 to 2023, and it's still not quite where supply is going to be needed overall, Lily. And just getting my arm licked here by the dog. But where can you spot a really good deal? Well, Alfa Romeo, they're down 26.24% year to date in sales. So while their production has gone up, their sales have gone down. That means Alfa Romeo, expect a deal if you go in now. And if they're not giving you a deal now, change dealers. And if you talk to, if you send emails or phone calls to 10 different dealers and they're all saying, it's over MSRP or it is MSRP, wrong. Soon, if they're not doing it already, that's a brand that needs to put rebates out to move metal. And the rebate can either be cash or it can be a percentage. Now, Fiat, down 52%. So Fiat, if you want a Fiat, I don't recommend it. I personally don't think they're reliable. I thought it was the biggest joke seeing Alfa Romeo at the top of the reliability list that we shared last week during the live. Fiat being high, I do not agree with that, but we talked about how they review reliability. I'll put out the mini episode for that, so stay tuned and watch. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of our content, especially our short, condensed content is more to the point. It's not just us hanging out in a live chat together. But Fiat down 52%, Jeep down 11.8%. So most Jeep models, you should expect a rebate in the form of either better interest rate, so that our industry average for a new vehicle is pretty much 9%. So from Jeep, either expect to get 0 to 3% rebate, or if they have, 5-6% rebate, 5 to 9% interest, expect the rebate to be bigger and bigger. If they have 9% interest on a model, expect a huge rebate, or just don't consider it at all. Lincoln down 9%. And guess what? Lincoln's interest rates are really good right now. That's where they're giving you the rebate, because they know their sales are down. When their sales go down, what do they want? They need to get sales up. So what do? They give you a better deal. Mitsubishi, Ram, you can expect a deal. Ram trucks, that's how they have always sold vehicles. Don't buy a Ram truck if there's not a huge rebate on it, because that's how they've always done business, and that's how they're going to have to go back to doing business. Toyota, don't expect a deal at Toyota. They're down 1%, but they're only down because they don't have enough production. Their production is still negatively impacted, and their production is very low compared to their demand. They're only down 1% because they're not producing enough. So Toyota traditionally also has not been a manufacturer that gives out rebates. Their interest rate now is high, and they're not giving out rebates. They've pretty much always done business with having okay interest rates and no rebates. Well, now because they have no supply, what are they doing? Well, they have really high interest rates and no rebates, because they're actually hoping to cool down demand, because their days in inventory, basically they have next to no inventory, very, very low inventory, and it's not staying on the lots for a very long period of time. Now, Jeep, a lot of inventory. Ram, a lot of inventory. So, BS Busters. Ford can't sell trucks. Yes, Ford is selling trucks. Ford is, for quarter 2 of 2023, North America's the US's number 1 selling brand. They're number 1. Their numbers are actually very good. So they're still selling trucks, but their inventory has gone up. And because their inventory has gone up and dealers don't want to be spending money on interest rates, what does this mean? You're either going to be getting, for example, this month on a Ford, you're either going to be getting very low interest, or most areas at the end of the month, they're going to put out a bigger rebate with higher interest. So that will be a time to pay cash. Upcoming $4,000 rebate on trucks, more interest, but if you're paying cash, buy at the end of the month, or make your contracts out for the end of the month. If, however, you're looking to finance, well, buy right now. Very low interest compared to the 9% new vehicle average. You're going to come in as low as 1.99% in my area, probably less in certain areas in the States. So sometimes Ford caters their deals to the areas or to the country based on how things are selling in that country. Now, let's just see real quick. So here's an issue with the market overall. Open this up, cover this, pretty important. So news from TD, we've got, if we could just, dog licking me, not helping here. So we've got the light vehicle sales continue to see solid growth in June. Overall, second quarter sales at 4.1 million units. That's up 17.5% year to year, but roughly 8% below 2018-2019 levels. So right now, here's how we can misinterpret data. Things are looking pretty good. However, you know, there's two ways to present this information. We can have a big old title that says incredible sales, best time to buy because everyone's buying. More people, so many more people than last year. 17.5% more sales than this time last year. That doesn't mean, however, that it's a good time to buy. Just because everyone's doing something doesn't mean it's a good idea. That's also another logical fallacy, and that's when you assume truth in something because the majority, a certain large group of people are doing it, so it seems like a good decision. It seems like a truth. It's not a truth. Here's the thing. Sales are up 17.5% from last year, but production was down last year. Now production is higher, but overall, sales are 8% below 2018-2019 levels. So what this means in the long run is if production goes back to 2018-2019 levels with time, if we continue to see 8% less than what is sales than what occurred in 2018-2019, but the same production, well, it'll take 10 months, and over 10 months, you'd have millions of extra vehicles out there. And if that ever happens, you're going to see better prices, better deals. You'll save thousands because manufacturers will not have dealerships have vehicles on the lots that are 2 years old. That just looks bad. And some of that is already starting to happen in certain areas. I really like what's going on in the chat right now, and I love hearing that people like, not just clickbait titles. Well, I don't mind a clickbait. I don't consider a title clickbait if it's like, Ford can't sell trucks, but then you really talk about what's going on. Okay, well, it can appear that they're not selling trucks, but here's the data and figures. I like that. It's a catchy title is fine as long as the content inside isn't incorrect, but different perspectives. So I think and I'd like to give real good credit to Brandon here from Car Questions Answered. I think what he's seeing with F-150s piling up on lots, he's starting to see not that Ford can't sell trucks right now, because my conclusion from the data is Ford can really sell trucks right now. Sales are great. There's, and we'll get to the exact numbers, but the percentage has greatly increased from last year in truck sales. It's at least 10%. But here's the thing. Production has increased. So there is a difference between production and sales, and that is going to lead to better prices because Ford's not going to accept that they can't sell trucks. That just means that if they kept things exactly as they were 3 months ago, they'd be in real trouble now. So Ford has already adapted to these rising inventories. They want inventories to go back to not what they used to be, but in between. They don't want yards empty. So Toyota having yards empty, that's bad for the manufacturer. But it's also bad because you lose out on certain customers that have to buy something that's actually available. Lily, that's a lot of kisses. Now, all these vehicles starting to build up in lots, Ford wants some of that, but they don't want 360-day inventory. Like we covered earlier in the live, a $40,000 vehicle on a lot for 6 months costs $2,000 in interest roughly if they're having to pay 10% interest. They don't want dealers to have to go through that because slowly a lot of manufacturers, for example, right now at Ford, profit margins are getting cut back a little. The Maverick, not a very profitable vehicle for dealerships, but Ford is telling dealerships, look, you'll have less inventory than 2018, 2019 levels. So what Brandon's seeing is there are vehicles starting to build up on lots. And what I'm seeing from month to month, if we look at 6 months ago, interest rates were higher. And this month we've got 2 promotions going on at Ford, and you can either have much bigger rebate, so either no rebate and 1.99% interest or less depending on the area. Or later this month, most areas are going to get hit up. Many areas will get hit up with a new program, a mini program in the month where you can have a rebate, but the interest is a little higher, which is amazing if you're a cash buyer, or if you pay on a quicker period of time, or if you have a trade-in that's worth thousands of dollars and that you've paid cash. So if you have a $30,000 truck that's paid off, well, you should probably consider going with the higher interest but bigger rebate. Or if you like to switch very often like myself, bigger rebate and a little more interest is fine, because I switch it every 6 to 12 months. So we've already seen better rebates. The prices have gotten better over the last 3 months. But this 8% sales being 8% less than what they were in 2018 or 2019 means that manufacturers are either going to produce less and things are going to stay the same. So one option, build 8% less and things stay the same. Same deals, same prices of what we currently have. If you build 20% less, well, then you'll create a scarcity. But if your competitors aren't doing the same thing, well, then you're just going to lose out, because people are going to go buy at a different manufacturer. You have to follow the game. So likely what's really going to happen is production is going to stay the same or continue to get a little bit better. And they're going to have to give us rebates in the form of interest rates. But since January 2023, I have been saying that I do expect deals to really start to come out this fall. But don't be fooled. Trade-ins have been, last summer, trade-in values were about 35% higher. In June, trade-in values as well as auction values have gone down by 4%. And I think they're going to go down by about another 10% in the next 2 months. So we're probably going to see maybe 5% better pricing on new vehicles, but we're going to see used vehicles lose another 10, and they've already lost 4. So I'm expecting about 15 to 20% decrease in used car values as we get more new vehicles building up on lots with rebates. So can Dodge, our Dodge and Jeep selling vehicles? Well, let's check the numbers. And just to finish up, TD also mentioned that fleet deliveries accounted for 18% of total sales in June, up from 16% in May, and only slightly below its 2019 average. So saying that Ford's only surviving, GM or Dodge are only surviving because they're sending so many more vehicles to fleet. Yes, they are sending more vehicles to fleet, but they're still not at their 2019 average. So we have to say that the conclusion we can draw is that Ford, GM, and Dodge are not being saved by fleet sales, because they're still not giving fleet the same percentage of vehicles that they did back in 2018 or 2019. But they are behind the ball. They are not selling as well as they were in 2018 and 2019 for the month of June. Michael Craig, thank you very much for becoming a member. Really appreciate that. Now, the market still thinks we're going to be selling 15.7 million units for the 2023 year. That's based on what's been sold so far. Now, passenger vehicle sales increased 13% year on year, while sales of light trucks rose 21.7%. So light trucks sales are up, and light trucks accounted for 80% of last month's sales, roughly 2 percentage points above its share of sales in June 2022. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. A lot of people, the news behind that really is that a lot of people are going from cars into SUVs or trucks. No surprise there. It's great having all the available space. So US sales rose 4% month on month. They expect 15.7 million to be sold. So that's impressive. It's a little bit more than what the industry assumes. So that if you want to look into all that, that's the US sales. June 2023 information from Andrew Foran economist for TD. Now, Ram, we can even look model by model. So you can look at which manufacturers aren't quite making it to kind of assume roughly where you can get a deal, but you can also look straight up at the sales numbers, and anyone who's in the negative is going to have to be doing a deal. But Ram right now, they're in the negative because they traditionally gave huge rebates. We're talking about generally $10,000 to $17,000 in rebates. So if a traditional Ram customer walks into Ram and gets told, we'll give you $5,000, zero rebates, or $5,000 in rebates, they'll probably say, you know what, I usually don't shop Ford or GM, but now I'm going to shop Ford or GM. So I think Ram sales are down because they're still not back to their traditional huge rebates. I think that's also the issue with Jeep. So unless you get a huge rebate at Jeep or Ram, I'd hold out a little bit longer. I think things are going to get a little bit better because they don't have a choice. The Ram is down 8.9. Ram pickup is down 8.95% from last year. And last year, production was cut back significantly. So that's a significant problem, and that's why we can observe that on Ram lots, they've got a whole lot of them. And, I think that's one thumbnail I am really liking. The thumbnails on YouTube that are saying, Ford and GM, actually their sales numbers are pretty darn good, but Ram or Jeep are going out of business. They're not going to go out of business. Not a fan of that thumbnail, but I do like the thumbnail saying they're in trouble. But their trouble is going to be our benefit because that means better prices are to come. Now, I think the problem with catchy titles is some YouTubers will, I want to congratulate, certain YouTubers with, basically 400,000 views, 153,000 views, 137,000 views 13 days ago from Scotty Kilmer. So it's cool to see someone who started a year ago beating out Scotty Kilmer, who's been doing this for who knows how many decades since YouTube came out. The only problem is when we have really catchy titles, here's the issue. You can go to a smaller YouTuber and they can, read the titles, and then they can assume things based from those titles. So I just want to catch this here, and maybe I won't find it. The comment has already been deleted, but basically, because, it's pretty easy. You can go through and read all sorts of different titles from different channels and then kind of piece all those different titles together as fact. So you've got a smaller YouTuber making a video that basically says Ford can't sell any trucks at all, Ford's doomed, they're going to go bankrupt. There is a lot of claims in there, and had the comment not been deleted, I would have enjoyed reading out, the 4 or 5 things that were wrong, that were, incorrectly said in the video, that there's no factual basis to it. There's no data to support it whatsoever. But I guess sometimes, and it wasn't a negative comment. It wasn't a mean comment. It was just a factual comment. But because it created a debate. It was disagreeing with the message that was being portrayed. Well, it got deleted because that was a comment from today, and 4 months ago was the last comment, 3 months, 4 months, so it's not showing up. So essentially the video very clearly said Ford's going to go bankrupt. They talked about the F-150 Lightning costing $110, $120, $130, even $140,000. Well, it's not very hard to call different dealers. That's not helpful advice. Helpful advice is if a dealer is trying to sell you a Lightning at $140,000, they're crazy, because a certain percentage of customers aren't taking their Lightning orders, and that's true of orders at every manufacturer. There's nothing exciting about that. It's just a fact. Anywhere from 5 to 35% of customers won't take their order when it comes in, because one, it's taking too long, they cooled off and they don't want a new vehicle anymore. They did their finances and budgeting and realized it doesn't fit. They ordered what they want, but they can't afford it. Sometimes the vehicle comes in and they don't pass credit. These are all reasons why these vehicles show up. So a bit of myth busting here, saying that Lightnings are $140,000 and that's why Ford is going to go bankrupt because it's a ripoff and it's just a horrible price for an electric truck, isn't helping anyone out. Helping people out is saying, giving advice like, if a dealer tries to sell you a Lightning over MSRP, don't pay it. They're wild. They're crazy. There are plenty of Lightnings. Most dealers have a few Lightnings that they can sell, and you'll be able to get a Lightning at MSRP. And then further helpful information, instead of saying, this video is truly about 20 different not clickbait titles, but attention-grabbing titles, but just put together and presented as facts. And that's where I have a problem. 15 to 20 titles of other YouTube channels, of big YouTube channels, but he's just pasted together their titles and presented them as facts, and it does not give helpful buyers information. It doesn't save anyone thousands. Really, all it does is, if I only watched YouTube and only negative channels that are just saying all the negative stuff, my conclusion would be, wow, I'm never going to buy a new car. And then I'd probably watch videos on the used market and say, oh boy, I'm not going to buy a used vehicle. I don't think that's helpful. If you're looking for a Lightning or any car, call different dealers. Don't pay over MSRP. Do not pay dealer fees, and don't let them try to tell you have to have an extended warranty. No matter where your credit is at, you're never in a position to have to take an extended warranty to pass credit. Some dealers will pass that, and it's a lie, and it's probably in most areas, and definitely in some areas, illegal to tell a customer that they have to have an extended warranty, otherwise they don't pass the credit, that the banks won't accept them without an extended warranty. That's not the case. Having extended warranty can protect you against unexpected costs that could potentially, depending on your credit score, generally if you have a really low credit score, having a $3,000-$4,000 repair might mean you can't pay the vehicle for 5 or 6 months. And you repair the vehicle, you will repair it because you need to get to work, but then you won't make the payments, for 5 or 6 months. And then the bank might repossess it. That is one way to maybe say, hey, I think in your situation, an extended warranty would be a really good idea, because I don't think, I wonder, and it's always more polite to ask the question, can you handle putting $3,000-$4,000 of repairs into the vehicle, or would you be better off paying more per month for your loan? That's, I think, the better way to present it.
That's true. Sometimes with the warranty, the guaranteed, you're better like that and have nothing to spend and nothing to think about.
So it's tough on YouTube because I think there's a happy compromise between having, it's tough. You need to have catchy titles and thumbnails to get people to click on your video. If you don't have catchy titles and thumbnails, no one clicks on your videos. But I think then the content needs to be, as much as possible, data-driven, as much as possible, because otherwise you'll have, you'll have the AI channels like Velocity, which seem very much AI, just paste together all sorts of whatever it finds on the internet. So Velocity, sometimes you go through a video and I can count 8 or 9 things that are things that are presented as facts. Not this could be the case, but hey, here's a fact and here's a fact. And then there's like 8 or 9 of them where it's like, that's the opposite of the truth. And then you'll have smaller channels as well that'll piece together titles and assume they're the truth and then just push it all forward as the truth as well. So if anyone wants to, but anyways, that's just the same. It's a video that got 52,000 views. But yeah, there's a lot wrong in that video, saying that Ford isn't selling any trucks. Ford Lightnings are $140,000, so that's going to bankrupt Ford. We got to try to stay factual as much as possible. So lots are full, lots are filling up, days in inventory are going up, better prices. You'd think, logically, they're going to have to give better prices because I doubt they're going to cut back on production. One channel that I particularly find interesting, but not in a good way, was saying that there'll be an 80% price drop. We commented it on one show. I'm sure it had no effect on it, but then the thumbnail got changed to 50% price drop. So that's, sorry, Velocity, or was it Car Chase? There isn't going to be an 80% drop in new car prices. That's not going to happen. Is there going to be a price drop? Likely, very likely, yes, because the data says that there needs to be a price drop. Thank you very much, Outsider Reviews, for suggesting people to give us a subscribe. If you don't like long videos, don't worry, they're not all long. We do cut together these shows. So unfortunately, honey, I'm sorry, but I covered BS Busters and Jeep Ram Can't Sell Vehicles all under one umbrella. Good luck with the editing.
That's
I
fine.
hope you still love me after all that.
I knew when you switched. And yes, we had an interesting question for a car question answered and Mrs. Car question answered, asking for the percentage fleet, if it's similar now to what it was before COVID, so 2019.
Yeah.
I know you did a research about that.
Yeah, fantastic question. And the fleet sales, it's sort of like the hidden card. If we're playing, let's say, Texas Hold'em, there's going to be 5 cards on the table. Well, when this data comes out, we get all 5 cards, but there's always each player has their hidden 2 cards. Well, manufacturers have fleet sales as their hidden hand, their 2 cards in Texas Hold'em. They know what they're holding, and you really have to go looking for it to really know what's going on. Because let's say Ford would have had 40% increase towards fleet. That means they would have provided a much higher percentage of vehicles to fleet. There'd be a whole lot less F-150s available in the yards, and they could still try to keep those prices high. I think Ford realizes that if they were still, let's say their MSRP plus 9% was what it costs to get an F-150, people would be very frustrated and they lose out to the competition. So fleet sales, I finally found the one slide I was looking for earlier. So I'm really happy about this and need to come back because I was, gave approximate numbers. But let's go to direct fleet sales. For fleet sales, I've got that on my TD slide here. So for fleet sales, that's where we can hide stuff and play around with dealer inventory. But often you'll see dealers will have a second side lot, and often that side lot that's full, often those are sold fleet orders. Now, we often don't put our fleet orders on a side lot because they always need a whole bunch of things installed on them. So we actually keep them in the back lot. That makes it look like we're hiding vehicles. We also have another lot for vehicles that we say, well, you know what, these 2 models are really similar. Put the second one that's almost identical at the second lot.
To leave some space.
But traditionally, our side lot had about 100 vehicles, usually 70, 75 trucks and a few other models. So we usually had about 100 units over on the secondary lot. And then on the back lot, we used to have, at our peak of inventory, we had about 35 to 40 units in the back lot. Right now we have no new vehicles in the back lot. Wow. And on the secondary lot, we're usually playing around 5 to 10. So inventory is still lower in the trucks. So for the fleet, we've got it right here. Fleet deliveries accounted for 18% of total sales in June, and that's up 16% in May. So it's up because in May is only 16%, so it's up 2%, and it's only slightly below its 2019 average. So in 2019, more vehicles went to fleet. So that's manufacturer's control valve. Too much inventory at dealers for retail customers, send some more to fleet. But when retail customers aren't biting and you've given everything you can to fleet and they're not taking more and you truly have leftovers, well, then you could see, huge sales, but probably be a bit of sales and, production cool off, a bit of a production cool off. So a bit of both.